Welcome to the Cynthia Dragoni Dance Podcast, where we take a deeper dive on all things dance in conversation with dancers, choreographers, costume designers, educators, and related industry pros. We'll look at recent news and consider how do history and cultural developments affect the art form. If you're a seasoned dancer or a curious listener, you're in the right place. Enjoy as we draw back the curtain. It's really amazing that classical ballet has survived so many revolutions. When you consider the fact that the art form as we know it today was born or codified under a French king and really glorified under a Russian czar. It was an art form that represented and embodied the principles of the monarchy, and in many ways it still is, even to this day. One revolution that it actually almost didn't survive was the Russian Revolution, which is perhaps surprising because it has become such an integrated part of Russia's culture today. I mean, can we even think about ballet without thinking about Russian ballet? But at the time, the revolutionaries were calling for all classical forms and artists, including Beethoven and Schubert, to be gotten rid of as relics of an imperial past. But it was saved by a man named Anatoly Lunacharsky, who was appointed by Lenin as the Commissar of Education in charge of cultural affairs. Lunacharsky believed that the proletariat, or the regular person, should absorb and develop the bourgeois culture as it now rightly belonged to them because of, and not in spite of, the revolution. And in 1919, Lenin gave in, and the formerly Imperial Theater became national property, charged with bringing socialist theater to the masses. Now, many ballet artists, including George Balanchine, Anna Pavlova, Sergei Diaghilev, and the Ballets Russes, had already left Russia, taking their ballet knowledge with them, implying that the art form would have survived on the whole had Lenin not relented, but we would have lost many of the greatest artists and their influences. Can we imagine a ballet world without Mikhail Baryshnikov, Rudolf Nureyev, Natalia Makarova, Irina Kolpakova, Maya Plesetskaya, Galina Ulanova, and later on Uliana Lopatkina, Diana Vishneva, to name only a few? This pantheon of Soviet and post-Soviet artists would have been lost to the ethers of potentialities without the foresight of Anatoly Lunacharsky. One revolution that it sadly did not survive was the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran. You may not know, the Iranian National Ballet Company was founded in 1958, and during its 21 years in existence, it was the most renowned Iranian cultural institution and the most respected dance company in the Middle East. Sadly, the company disbanded in 1979 after the Islamic Revolution, as it, as a Western form of art, was made illegal. The history of ballet and Iran started in the 1920s, when a Russian immigrant who had ironically fled the Russian Revolution, named Madame Corneli, started teaching dance classes in Tehran. Later, creating a national ballet company on par with those in the West had become a priority for the government in Iran at the time, and the Shah, Mohammad Reza Shah, the last Shah of Iran, asked Dame Ninette de Valois to be an advisor on the development and formation of a ballet company. You may know Dame Ninette de Valois, as she was one of the most important figures in the history of all of classical ballet. She was the founder of the Royal Ballet, the Royal Ballet School, the touring company that would later become Birmingham Royal Ballet. She also had a huge hand in founding the Turkish National Ballet. She is now considered widely to be the godmother of English and Irish ballet. The Iranian National Ballet was re-established 23 years after its disbanding, but it was in exile in Sweden. And actually, Diaghilev's famed ballet company that brought us Balanchine, Stravinsky, Pavlova, Nijinsky, and many more of the who's who of the art world from that time, was also, interestingly, a ballet company in exile. Their calling card was that they claimed to bring the best of Russian ballet and culture, but they in fact never performed in Russia, and many of the artists in the company were never able to return to their homeland. Dancing is still illegal in Iran today, as you may know, and has been a huge part of the resistance movement, and specifically the women's resistance movement that started a few months ago. It can feel like an artistic career happens in a vacuum outside of politics and policies when they are in fact inextricably intertwined, as we have seen. We have here a prescient quote from Alexis de Tocqueville. No part of literature is more closely or more abundantly linked to the present state of society than the theater. The theater of one period will never suit the next if a major revolution has changed the mores and laws in between. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cynthia Dragoni Dance Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow on YouTube. And if you want to be in the loop for all updates for programs and shows in the US and Europe, sign up for the email list at cynthiadragoni.dance. We'll leave you with this quote from the great choreographer and dancer Martha Graham. People have asked me why I chose to be a dancer. I did not choose. I was chosen to be a dancer, and with that, you live all your life. Until next week, thank you so much.